What up, what up, what up? What's good, what's good, what's good, what's happening? What's going on? How you living? How you feeling? What's good, what's spectacular, what is awesome? Welcome to the Money Match Gaming Podcast. I am part of your co-host team, The Infinite. I am here with my good old friend, the one and only, the special, the comedian, the special lover of mine, Dan Estrada. Oh, dude, I did it the wrong way. You know, hey, I know.
Hold up. The special lover of
Yeah,
yours?
yeah. You're a special lover of mine.
That makes it sound like we canoodle, and we do not canoodle.
We do not canoodle, but, you know, hey, you're supposed to roll with it. That is a completely improv start. And we've been doing them, and now you're like, whoa.
Yeah, because normally you don't call me, you don't say we canoodle together, all right?
I mean, yeah, sure. But, I mean, nobody expects,
They know. That. Hey, listen, the people on the internet, they don't know. They don't know this.
Okay. I'll take that one back. He's offended, y'all. He's offended.
I'm not offended. I just wish I would have known.
I wish I would have saw it coming. That I wasn't so surprised.
But yes, guys, this is the Money Match Gaming Talk Show Podcast Extravaganza Spectacular. And today we are talking about a relatively recent release called Borderlands 3. So Borderlands 3 is developed by Gearbox Games, published by 2K Games, and was released on September 13th, 2019. It is the long-awaited sequel to Borderlands 2, which came out 7 years prior. There have been other Borderlands games in the meantime. There's the pre-sequel, which adds more to the 2 story. And there's Tales from the Borderlands, which kind of has implications to stuff that happens in this. And there was also that Borderlands 2 DLC that they released when they announced Borderlands 3. So there's been a few things to keep people's Borderlands itch scratched. Obviously, they also reported the games onto the Handsome Collection. So Borderlands hasn't really gone anywhere. I mean, I've been playing Borderlands 2 for the past 7 years, or Borderlands games for the past 7 years. But here we are, Borderlands 3. It's here, and we're going to talk about it. Lance, do you have that description for this game?
It's a wee bit long, but we'll go for it. So Borderlands 3 is a loot-driven, first-person shooter. Players either playing alone or in parties of up to 4. Make a character from one of the 4 classes available and take on various missions given out by non-playable characters, NPCs. And the bounty boards to gain experience, in-game monetary rewards, and reward items. Players can also gain these items by defeating enemies throughout the game. As the player gains levels, they gain skill points that they allocate to a tree. The game introduces 4 playable characters. Amara, a siren, who is an operative did I miss something? Yeah, I did. Amira, a siren, who summons ethereal fists. Mo's, a young gunner who rides a mecha. Iron Bear. Zane, an operative with various of gadgets. And Flack, a robot beastmaster who summons creatures to aid his fight. Unlike previous Borderlands games where each character had only one unique skill that operates on a cooldown, each character in the game can now unlock 3 unique skills throughout, though only one, or in Zane's case, 2, can be equipped at a time, greatly expanding the number of potential character builds a player can make. Boom.
Yeah, and that's also kind of misleading too, because you can enhance those skills. So, like, for example, Amara, one of her skills is phase lock. And if you get one enhanced phase lock, it makes a giant hand literally come from the ground and, like, start smashing stuff when you have them phase lock. And you have one version of phase lock that, like, bounces from one person to another. So, honestly, there's probably about 6 to 9 total action skills because of the changes you can make to them through, like, going down certain trees and stuff per character, which is way cooler than just the one that you had in all the other previous games.
Yeah, which you might actually not find useful. So, for example, in Borderlands 2, I just didn't like Zero's action ability. I just didn't like it. So I didn't play him.
I like it. I had a melee build with him that was really strong, where I would just, like, zip zap and just, like, slash a whole bunch of... It wasn't really good on bosses, but it was really good for, like, trash clearing, yeah. But But yeah, so what do you think? What is your initial impressions of the game?
I really enjoy it. I really, really do like it. But it does need some work. Even after the patch, I feel like it still needs a little bit of work. Um, there was some frame dropping. There were quite some like bad loading kind of screens. I feel like when you boot up the game, it's kind of sluggish,
Mm-hmm.
and kind of opening menus and stuff like that. But overall, it's an improvement to Borderlands 2 in my opinion. I think they really flushed out the system, and overall, it does feel like a lot of quality of life improvements. But that's really all I want from Borderlands. Like just a general quality of life improvement. I want the
Mm-hmm.
engaging story, and even if they just continue to like kind of create like a raid boss scenario and then just gave us a couple scenarios with some of the characters that we like, I'm happy. That's really
Mm-hmm.
all I want from this series. And I don't need this whole reconstruction, and I think that's like where they find themselves in traps, is they try to recreate it, and I'm just like, no, just add a lot of quality of life changes, give us a little bit more in-depth system, and I think people will be happy. And to me, that's what this game is. So, hey, yeah.
Yeah. I mean, those who know me know that Borderlands 2 is one of my favorite games. Uh, and I think this game is a worthy successor. Uh, I mean, earlier this year, back in January or maybe February, we talked about Kingdom Hearts 3, Kingdom Hearts 2 being one of my favorite games. At the time, I thought it was a worthy successor. The more I think about it, the more I agree that it's not the best game. It's not a terrible game, but it's not the best game. There's a lot of problems with it. I think this is closer to being better than Borderlands 2 than Kingdom Hearts 3 was to Kingdom Hearts 2. I don't think this game is better than Borderlands 2. I think there are aspects of this game that is better than Borderlands 2, but I still wouldn't put it higher than Borderlands 2 on any sort of threshold. But there's reasons, and I have a lot of stuff here. I have a lot of pros, a lot of cons, a lot more cons than I would normally have for a game
Whoa.
that, especially, I've reviewed fairly highly. Like, I have a very good score for this game. Spoiler alert. But I do have like a handful of cons. Normally, I only have like one or two for things. I have like five, so it's wild for
Big
me.
whoa.
I know. But one of them is kind of something that Lance mentioned in like his talks, and that um, performance is not great in this game a lot of times. A lot of lag and stutter, like not even just playing online, but when you try and play with friends, it sometimes like gets unplayable. It crashes a lot, especially on the Xbox One X. It'll just crash your console certain times.
Yep.
My buddy who was playing the game when it first came out couldn't get past the opening, like not the opening cutscene, but the scene where you meet Vaughn for the first time. It would just brick out his Xbox. So he had to eventually he was able to figure out a way to get past it. But I mean, that's an issue that shouldn't exist within a game when it launches. But it was kind of announced and launched shortly after to kind of gratify the fans. And other than those bugs and crashes, the game is really, really good. Like, there's performance issues and stuff, but the game is very polished. Everything looks great. Everything feels great. But yeah, there's a lot of bugs and crashes. Another con I have is that the end game is fairly underdeveloped. I know, Lance, I don't know if you've beaten or hit cap level or anything of that nature yet. I have. I've been there for a while. There's not a lot to do other than just chain farm bosses, which is kind of what there was to do in the other games, which I understand. However, there was like raid bosses, which were significantly harder, which none of those exist yet. There were expansions, and there are expansions coming. There's a Halloween expansion coming, like a free Halloween expansion, I think, coming at the end of the month, just like there was in Borderlands 2. So it's not like this is like only a con for now. It's just at launch, the end game feels kind of underdeveloped. It kind of feels like it's just stuck in its, playing by your, like, it's most efficient to play by yourself too, which is silly, especially with a game that prides itself on co-op. like the end game farming, you should get a benefit from playing with others, and you don't really get a benefit from playing with others. I think that's kind of an issue. And then going with that, there are so many legendaries in this game, which is awesome, but you do not get enough space to carry them all. I think there's 200 legendaries, maybe more, and you only have 15 banks or 50 bank slots. And it's not like, okay, I'll just create another character and I can just get the items over there and then put it in that bank. No, it's a shared bank between your entire account. So if you want to save legendaries for characters you're leveling, and you want to save legendaries for the end game because you're like, I want to collect them all, you're not going to be able to do that. You just don't have the space. Yeah, that's what I've come into. My bank is entirely full. My bags are pretty much entirely full. I come to the point where like there's nothing really I can do, and it kind of sucks. So I think that's an issue that they can fix and stuff like that. Like all these are issues for the most part that they can fix, and I hope that they do. But it's really frustrating to like have all these like sweet items and be like, well, I really have no space for it unless I have to. I mean, like, and granted, not every legendary is good, so totally I can just sell some and just not use some, and that's fine, whatever. But I kind of want to have them all, I kind of like the idea of them all being there and then making new characters and being able to be like, oh, well, let's try these items on this build and stuff like that. So that's definitely frustrating for me. I don't know if you've run into inventory being like an issue. I know early game it's definitely hard because like I picked up all these guns and now I gotta go back and sell them.
Yeah. I think just because you're kind of going into it, I feel like you mentioned the word polish, and I'm guessing you're talking about like the way it looks. But I feel like there's like a lot of areas that aren't as polished as the other games. So like you not running into stores, like mind you, I didn't get as deep into the game as you did, but like that's a problem. That wasn't really an issue in the other one. I feel like you ran into stores quite frequently, but like
there's definitely way less like machines in this game. But the way you can kind of combat that, at least in a lot of zones, not in every zone because this doesn't exist within every zone, but in a lot of zones. Now that you can just kind of fast travel between like the car and like the fast travel space really easily, you can get to a store like at any point. You can just be like, oh, let me just fast travel this store, and then fast travel the car. However, there's other levels, where you don't have vehicles, and that's a little bit more frustrating and kind of obnoxious. But the good news about that is the lost and found system, where like if you don't have room to pick up a blue item, that's fine. It'll be waiting for you whenever you go back to Sanctuary, something like that.
Right. And that's fine, but that just feels like to me like this game just doesn't feel finished to me. Like overall, like they're just like there are a couple things that kind of happen in the game because we're kind of bleeding into it a little bit to where I feel like the enemies approach you funny. Like I find that with my party when we were playing, like I'm not sure if it's just the way the level's designed, but the way enemies fan out, like I find myself like surrounded a lot, like, and I can't explain it. I was like playing it and I was trying to understand it, but they just don't seem to approach where I think they should approach, and that's not necessarily bad. It's just
I think that's purposeful too. I think that's because they made the movement so much more crisp with the ability to vault things and to climb on things and to slide and whatnot, that they also made the AI way more erratic in their positioning and where they will move to and where they will spawn and stuff like that.
Right.
Because you have all these more movement options, whereas in the older games you were pretty much just limited to hide behind this like cover and pop out and shoot or something like that.
Right. But to me it feels a little bit awkward, in the sense that like when I'm in the middle of a firefight, I have to look at my map to find the enemies. Like, and I can't pinpoint why that feels that way, but I feel like everybody in my party had that moment to where they're like, wait, I'm getting shot. I kind of don't know where from. And I'm like, and I have to say things like, hey, just look at your map, and then we're like, oh,
yeah. But I mean, I do that. I've done that in other games too, in like Borderlands too. Like that's nothing new, especially when you play on harder and harder difficulties and you just have higher mob density. Okay. That's just kind of how it is sometimes,
Yeah, I beat 2, but like I didn't go like super deep into the harder difficulties and stuff like that. Maybe it was, but my experience was never really that. So it was just weird playing it that way because I felt like if I'm getting shot, I should kind of know where that is, I guess, to a degree. But, I felt a little confused by that, and it felt weird. And I'm still kind of processing why it doesn't feel quite right to me, but, and then, just so I can enter the little bit of the conversation, like, how'd you feel about the maps? Because, like,
large.
They were large, but they also felt like super linear to me. Like, and like less large, more complex. And I love the complexity of it, but like I do like the old open space kind of Borderlands type of thing. I've watched a couple reviews, before we had our podcast and stuff like that, and they seem to like the whole linear fashion. They didn't like the aimless.
I definitely like the linear way more than like just open nothingness. But even still, the maps are very large and it's easy to get lost at times. Like, I'm not saying that the maps are bad. I think a lot of the maps are really cool. I really like the fact that you're heading over to different planets and aren't on Pandora the whole time. It allows you to see different creatures and stuff like that, which I think is really awesome. But they're just very large, and like every map feels like you're on it forever sometimes.
I like that.
Like everything about the game feels bigger.
I like that.
It's a longer story, bigger maps, more zones, more bosses, more drops.
The vertical complexity too.
Yeah, that's really cool. I really do like that. When you look at the map, you can see like the levels.
Well, even having to climb up on towers and stuff like that was like there's an aspect you had to do.
Because you couldn't like vault and
correct.
Stuff. It was pretty the only way to do it was like grenade jump, which was not a thing that everybody could do very easily.
Right, and I love that part. That's like my favorite part.
I agree. I like that, and I like that you had to do that a lot for like, and it was always it was still shown you what to do, like with the yellow paint on the wall and stuff, which pretty much guides you to direct you like where you can climb and what like that. But it was still really cool to have that like kind of treasure hunting aspect to all the levels, where you're like, oh, you know what? Like, for example, I went back through the game on a True Vault Hunter playthrough, and I was like, oh, well, I'll collect all the collectibles I didn't have. And sometimes I was like, how do I get here? And I'm like, okay, well, I have to do this. Okay, all right, now I can hop on. All right, great. And then you like just figure it out. It's like all little puzzles. I like it.
Yeah. So, I mean, I prefer a little bit open maps. Now, I have it in my cons, because seeing how you're talking about cons and you're going through those first. It's not that the maps are bad. It's just I do want a couple breakout sessions to where it's like, all right, here's an open space to explore, and I feel like it'd be good for long term.
There were in some maps, but those were, I mean, in my opinion, some of the worst maps were the ones that were too open.
Well, I'll get there one day. One day.
Where did you get up until?
I got basically after Maya dies.
R.I.P. Pour one out for a real one.
Yeah.
I love Maya. Maya's one of my favorite characters in the second one.
Yeah, I'm kind of sad she died, to be honest.
Yeah, that's the idea.
And I was kind of like,
That's the point of the game where you're supposed to start hating the Calypsos. The only problem is it had a reverse effect online, and everybody did not hate the Calypsos, but instead hated Ava and blamed Ava, even though she's just a little kid.
I blame her too, though, to be honest.
No, she's a little kid. She's naive. This is like the first time she's ever outside of her home planet with anybody. She doesn't have like really a family. She doesn't have any sort of knowledge of what's right and what's wrong. She just hears these stories about how heroic and awesome vault hunters are. So it's right, like it's totally fair for her to want to get involved in that kind of stuff. And yeah, Maya told her no, but how many times when you were a kid did your parents tell you don't do this and you're like, yeah, I'm gonna do it?
Yeah, you can't scold or beat all the things out of your kids. There are some things that they're gonna do.
Right.
That doesn't make that situation less shitty. Like,
no, it's not, but it's not her fault. It is her fault. She was gonna die. Maya was probably going to get got by the twins either way. Would she have? Maybe she would have just gotten her power stolen, a la what's her name, Lilith. but she was not leaving that room unscathed.
I agree. Although I will add that I don't like those scenes. I don't like when Lilith got her power stolen. I don't like when Maya died. They were kind of cheesy and unrealistic. Yeah,
It's not. That's see. I agree with you to some extent. I don't think that they're cheesy or unrealistic. My problem with it is that it doesn't. It makes it feel like your character is not actually part of the game because you're right there for all these events. You don't do anything. See, when Jack when Jack kills Roland in Borderlands 2, you're there. You're talking to Roland. Roland's talking to you, and Jack sneaks up on him and kills him. And then when you're about to react, he chains up Lilith and she phase locks you out of there. Like that it is explained. Whereas in the scene where Maya dies, you watch this 15-minute or so scene of her getting turned to, I'm sorry, Mr. Stark, I don't feel so good.
and then you're in there looting.
So that's
the story that they're telling you.
That kind of bothers me. Like the fact that your character doesn't feel like it's really a part of the story. Like throughout the game, all the cutscenes, you're in the cutscene, but you're not really alluded to being there, and that definitely bothered me. But I didn't think that the cutscenes or the story necessarily were bad. I just felt like I wish it felt like I was actually an important character because it doesn't feel like I'm important.
Right. And then in most of the situations, and I picked up on that as well, they don't call you by your name or your role or any of that other stuff. You're always Vault Hunter. And I
yeah, but that's how it is in all the games. They never call you by, they just call you Vault Hunter.
I don't remember that.
Yeah, no, all the games they call you Vault Hunter, or they call you Killer, or they call you, VH or something of that nature, but they never call you by your class or character name or anything of that nature.
Man, I don't know why I felt it so much more in this one. Maybe it is just
like I said, it's because there's that disconnect. There's that disconnect from the character and the rest of the game playing out around it.
We'll ride with it. But yeah, it was definitely weird.
But it's only in cutscenes. Like, people interact with you fine outside of cutscenes. But in cutscenes, it's like you're not even there.
You should have more of an effect. I completely agree. And I didn't like the whole Lilith scene. I'm like, yeah, there's like a thin sheet of metal keeping you from like that scenario. Like, why can't they use their siren powers to like lock you up? Why can't you have like, an infinity mob of like psychos running at you as you're trying to get to Lilith, and there's like some kind of blockage that keeps you from getting to her until it's time. Like there's a couple things that they could have did that I felt like could have made those scenarios feel less. Yeah, there's really no words for it, but you get what I'm saying.
Yeah, and like that's a common complaint online, and that's one I agree with. There's a lot of the complaints online I do not agree with. A lot of people online are dumb, and they're just like, just want to hate on things because they want to hate on things. Like, but that's fine, whatever. Everyone chirps the same things. Everyone chirps that Balex is a great character. He is. Everyone chirps that Wainwright is a great character. Also is. Everyone chirps that Ava and the twins are terrible, and I don't think either of that is correct. I think the twins are totally fine. I think they serve their purpose well. Are they cringy? Kinda, but so are like all YouTubers that say like, share, and subscribe and crap. Like, that's just the whole idea. Like, that's the character. Cringe just kind of comes with it. But I think the twist at the end with their family ties and stuff, I think is really good.
I don't know how to respond to that.
Why? Sorry. Siri decided it wanted to chirp in. Yeah, I think that all that was really well done. And like the story, other than your lack of involvement, was fine. It was good. The ending kind of brought a tear to my eye. The music in this game was badass. There was a lot of really cool music in either certain zones. I know the zone where you're going with Maya, like you're riding to the vault with her in the car, and the music just that starts playing is just like really badass for no reason. Like, it has no right being as good as it is, and it is. It's like listening to like a Cage the Elephant album or something like that, and just driving around listening to this, and it goes real hard. And then you have like certain zones where just the music is just like, oof, oof. boss music is all like this. They did a great job with the music in this game. I cannot say that enough. I don't give it as much credit in Borderlands games as I tend to like. At least after I play through it the first time, I usually tend to put my own music on. But the music in this game sometimes makes me forget that I wanted to do that. Which is good. That was never the case in 2. In 2, the music is kind of boring for the most part. Another thing that I have for a con here is that I wish characters were more involved than they were. The main characters in this story, and they all are women, and like I don't have a problem with that. I know there's definitely people out there being like, "Oh, feminist propaganda," like because the main characters are Tannis and Lilith and Ellie, and all women for the most part. Zed's not even in the game. Marcus is a dude, but he's kind of main, not main. But then you have like Tiny Tina, Brick, and Mordecai, who are all very important characters to the Borderlands lore and the Borderlands story, and they're essentially side characters. You do one main story quest with them, and then you honestly never have to interact with them again. And that kind of bothers me because I felt like those are very important characters that kind of just don't get their justice in this game. And then there's other character omissions that are kind of confused me. Like, you have Maya, who's a playable character in 2 in this game. You have Zero, who's a playable character in 2 in this game. You have a lot of audio logs of Krieg. You don't actually see Krieg personally, but you hear what he has going on. I don't think there's anything with Axton. Oh, there's that's not true. There's like a Playgirl magazine with Axton on the cover. And I don't think there's anything with Salvador. I don't know if there's any reference to Salvador like at all, which I find very interesting.
Was there Brick?
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Brick, Tiny Tina, and Mordecai.
Okay. I didn't catch
they
Brick.
are big characters, but are not like I said. They're only involved in one story quest, and that's it. And you don't talk to them before the end of the game or anything like that. They're there, and then whatever. Oh, and Moxie's a big character too. She's also a woman, but But yeah, so I thought that was like a kind of weird omission to like keep those 3 out, especially because of how much everybody loves, especially like Tiny Tina for one. Everyone loves Tiny Tina. Like she is like by far one of the most favorited characters of this series. So to kind of like keep her on the bench for most of the game was a little disappointing, I would say. But it is whatever because it didn't affect it too much, and maybe they'll have a larger role to play in like the expansions to come and whatnot. And I'm sure there'll be like maybe like another Tiny Tina's Assault on Dragon Keep type thing, which will be a big Tina expansion. However, yeah, it was just kind of it was definitely a bummer to not have more of those characters.
Right.
That's basically it for my cons. Basically it. But
watch your movie.
But do you have any cons that you want to talk about? Any other cons I didn't mention possibly?
No, we actually talked about them already. Here,
okay.
You can use my phone.
So I'll just get right into some pros that I have. Okay. And I mentioned a few of them earlier while I was just kind of going through cons and whatnot. And I think that this new story characters that they've added, a lot of them are really great. I love Katagawa. I thought he was really interesting. I'm happy Reese and Vaughn made it into this story. Vaughn was hilarious. Vaughn was like one of the better characters throughout this game. Wainwright Jacobs, Hammerlock's lover and the owner to the Jacobs estate, is great. He is such a cool guy. He's like one of my favorite characters. And I also like that they have that little Wainwright Jacobs and Hammerlock little love thing going on. I really enjoyed that as well. Ava, a lot of people don't like Ava and feel like that she was kind of thrust into being really cool, really fast. And I guess I agree with that. She kind of did just get powers towards the end, like without really having to do anything to earn the powers. But this was kind of her destiny. Maya kind of mentioned that when she was still alive. She was like, she's going to be a siren. Like, I don't know how, but she's going to be one. I know she is. I need to make sure she's ready when she is. So she kind of gets thrust into a role that a lot of people think that is way too big for her britches. I sort of get that, but I still enjoy Ava as a character. I think she has a really great side quest where you go and like pick up her items on Athenas. I think that's like one of my favorite side quests. Yeah, Wainwright's favorite character by far. Like I love Wainwright. I think he's incredible. And there's a lot of cool new characters in this game that I think do good justice for the Borderlands lore. And even like Typhon de Leon was great. Listening to his logs throughout the game and then finally meeting him at the end, finding out that he is the parents of the Calypso twins was really cool. And his whole story arc was great. I very much so liked him. Yeah, honestly, like most of the new characters I was super into. Oh, Balex. We did barely even talk about him. Voiced by Ice-T. Incredibly hilarious character. Like, probably one of the funniest characters in the game. That's a brand new character. I hope Balex stays in for future games. I hope they can get Ice-T to do more with Balex because I thought he was really, really funny. And, like, the quest where you first meet him is great. So I definitely strongly recommend Balex as far as like characters go. And you know the writing of Borderlands is the same old Borderlands. Like, and some people might take that as a negative. Like that's great. Like this game was still very funny. There was side quests that were just as enjoyable as main quests. There's characters that just act very well. Like it's a very fun and funny experience. One of my favorite side quests is the the quest where you are doing it's essentially the Tommy Wiseau quest. I don't know if anyone here are listening or watching or you are familiar with Tommy Wiseau, but he's the creator of the movie The Room, and I think the name of the quest is Buff Film Buff, where you're going around and helping him collect his like videos that people have thrown in the trash because they're all terrible. It's a really fun quest. It's a really funny quest, and whoever the dude who is playing like the fake Tommy Wiseau character does a great job of like capturing that essence and bringing it to the Buff Film Buff. So yeah, and then on top of it, there's tons of rare spawns and legendary items that reference all sorts of different pop cultures. I know one rare spawn that I really liked. There was One Punch, who was supposed to be One Punch Man, dropped a shotgun called the One Pump Chump. That is more of a sexual reference, but I'll let you figure that out on your own. But he was cool. If he did hit you in one punch, no matter how much health you had, no matter how many levels higher than you, you would go down, because that's his stick, and I like that. There was also, in the same zone, there was Wick and Wardy, and it was great because they talked like Rick and Morty, and they had like little portal guns that they would jump in and jump out of, like everything. They did like such a good job with all the like minor references, like they always do. I'm not surprised at all that I enjoyed it as much as I did. But yeah, and then the last big pro I have, and I've mentioned it a couple times, gameplay. The gameplay of this game feels so great. Even the gameplay loop, it could feel repetitive in a lot of games, doing quests, returning them, going back out, doing more quests, returning them, going back out, stuff like that. But it always feels fresh in this game. I don't know why. It has no business feeling as fresh as it does. That allows me to like go back and do it time and time again. I've created 4 characters. I've played the starting few zones multiple times. I played the end of the game multiple times. I've beaten the game multiple times because I have an obsession and I need to stop. But that's only done because the gameplay is so crisp. Being able to move like you couldn't in the other games, being able to slide, being able to hop over walls, to climb things, like hitting shots and making it feel like more powerful. Not except, like in old games, it was like you have these 3 broken guns, and then you just get those 3 broken guns, and then you melt everything. Whereas in this one, it's like, if you spec yourself right, a lot of different guns can be broken. Especially, like, my first character was a Flak, and Flak was very broken at the time the game released. They have nerfed him quite a bit since then, which I don't agree with. I agree with the first nerf because he would melt bosses in like a second. And there's still people who could like melt bosses in like a second if they built right and have the right items. But that's a little insane. However, the second nerf just made it like they just slowed him down further for no real reason. They essentially made a pretty good talent useless. So essentially, the way the talent worked is it would every time you crit, there was a 36% chance that it would reload a bullet back into your mag. So what you would do, you would go Gorillas of the Mist, which makes you go invisible, and then when you do that, all your shots are crits. So you crit. So all the times you're critting, you have a 36% chance to add an extra mag to your thing. So I had like my pistol was a 4-shot pistol, but sometimes I could get 12 shots out of there, just being like pop, 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 pop. And yeah, it was really strong, but it made sense. Now there's like a 2-second soft cooldown on that, and I empty a clip in shorter than 2 seconds. Like 2 seconds, I'm pop, 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 pop. Like my clip is gone before 2 seconds. So now that there's a soft 2-second like cooldown on it, you can only essentially get one extra bullet per clip or something of that nature, which I think is pretty frustrating and kind of defeats the whole point of that like talent, which is obnoxious. But it was really strong. So Flack has had better days. He's been nerfed a few times now. But then there's characters who were not great at the beginning, like Zane, who's gotten buffed. And I think since it's a PvE game, I really think from this point on, we should really just buff characters when they need to and not nerf so much, because who cares? Like, there's no competitive aspect to this game. People just want to play and feel powerful. Let them feel powerful as hell. And then, like, fix it with harder difficulties,
Yeah,
that'll work. Games.
That'll work. So I'll go into a few of mine. I'm not sure if that was your entire list, but
that was pretty much my entire list. Yeah.
Okay, so like the biggest thing that I liked the most, and what I really disliked about a lot of the other ones, a lot more with Borderlands 2 than 1, I feel like, is functional guns. I felt like
I feel like every game brand felt good.
Yeah.
And there's actually a couple things that I didn't write that I just remembered that we might cross when you talk, but I just wanted to remember that when you're done, I got more pros.
I got more, son. I really enjoyed that every gun felt functional. Like, and there was so many guns.
Not every gun, but like every gun brand at least had like one gun that I was like, okay, I like this. Like, for example, there was one gun from Atlas called the cost-effective Q system. Now, if you're leveling up and you find a cost-effective Q system, no matter what character you are, I recommend you keep it and use it, because for some reason it is very strong. And like all the other Atlas guns were underperforming, so they buffed Atlas gun damage by 25%. And I was just like, that means we're gonna get a better cost-effective Q system, eh? And sure enough, we did. 25% stronger, all of them. And yeah, very good gun. And I still think Jacobs was my favorite manufacturer throughout the game, but I used a little bit of everything. I mean, I got the achievement for getting mail from every manufacturer.
What I mean by functional guns is, like, in the last one, there were just brands that I just felt like I could not use. Like, the gun just did not function well. I couldn't hit things. I couldn't kill things. I was like, oh, it does so much more damage, but no. Like, it like, I'll use the weaker weapon, and that just felt like the way I needed to play the game, and I just didn't like that aspect of the game. In this one, like, there might be gun manufacturers that I like more than others, but at the end of the day, they were all functional. Like, the whole,
I didn't like Malawan that much.
I learned to like it, especially after I got like a.
I didn't like charge guns.
Well, there's the shockwave ones, and then there's other ones too. And
all the ones I found, like, for the most part, for Malawan, all had like the little bit of charge beforehand. The only Malawan gun I really liked was the one you get after you console Ava, like the Cloud Kill, I think it's called. Mm-hmm. But yeah, I mean, and it kind of sucks because I was a big Malawan fan for all the games before it, but I also kind of got it because Malawan's sort of one of the villains in this game. So yeah, I get it. I get why they're not as great. Meteors still suck. Meteors are terrible. I mean, they're like fun, but they're obnoxious as hell.
Yeah, in this game,
If you like
really
throwing away your ammo.
You know, in this one they definitely felt a lot less. Yeah, they didn't feel good.
They're fine. It's just the problem is like, oh, you want to pick up that thing on the ground? Oh, you mean reload your clip and throw your gun and waste 50 ammo at a time? Like, no, I just don't want to do that. Please stop doing that.
I mean, I like the design. You know, I like doing maximum damage. You know, like, but in this one, I just didn't get that feeling. You know, tossing my gun on something didn't feel like, oh yeah, that was worth
and like
it.
they have all sorts of different like. Whereas in the last game, it was essentially like just toss and it becomes a grenade. It's like sometimes like just toss and then you shoot it and it becomes a singularity that pulls everything in, or it's like toss it and it becomes a gun that walks on the ground.
Yeah, there's a lot of crazy things that they do,
right.
But you know, like it just didn't feel like. It didn't feel good to me. It didn't feel good to me. You know, like in the other one, I felt like I was rewarded for wasting my ammo.
I like that Reese would. I don't know if you got to this part of the game, but Reese just talks crap.
Yeah, they doo-doo on TDR.
Yeah, on everybody's TDR, like the whole time.
Yeah, all of them doo-doo on TDR. Like, you might as well be a TDR. And I'm like, you know, I agree this time. I used to love the brand, but now I'm like, yeah, this is straight doo-doo. Although, like, you know, the greatest comeback of all time happens to be Torg. I love Torg guns.
Oh, see, I like Torg guns in the old game. I don't dislike them in this game. Like I said, for me, I'm a Jacobs man through and through. I've been a Jacobs man since the old games. I've been a Jacobs man at Borderlands 1, 2, 3, all of them. Or pre-sequel.
Yeah,
I'm a Jacobs guy. I don't know why. Because, like,
they're just normal guns and they have a lot of damage.
Yeah, for the most part. But I mean, like, for example, one that I have that I use a lot is it's called the Duck. And what it is, it's a Jacobs pistol that still crits and does damage as if it was a Jacobs pistol. But it also has the added effect of being sticky explosive grenades. So when you're in, like, once again, flak, and you go invisible and you do the all shots crit mode, all those explosions crit too. And that does a lot of damage.
Yeah, it sounds like it.
Yeah, so and like they nerfed sticky damage from Torg guns,
but not from the Duck.
Not from the Duck. So it was like still fairly strong.
Oh, I don't like that they nerfed sticky damage. That sucks.
They nerfed it. That was like one of the first patches, like a couple days after the game, because literally, like the stickies were so much more powerful than doing impact, like by a long shot. So they like nerfed it to make them closer.
Okay. I definitely feel like impact does a pretty decent job, but if I feel like I couldn't hit crits, then I'd just go sticky and kind of it felt like it balanced out. So I might have not caught it at its like heyday.
Yeah, it was like literally only for like a couple days where it was like they hot fixed that one pretty quick.
Right. So the next thing is like I think the classes are cool, and it may be just because of the whole action adjustment to where you can kind of modify the action and stuff. It felt alive, unlike a lot of the other ones to where it's like you've used this move for the billionth time, and the same things are happening, and you have these like slight perks that make it a little bit different. And I kind of like that system. I like that they kind of make it more about the guns, but this made like the skills themselves feel
it made characters feel more unique and more like important to be differentiated between.
Right. So a lot of that just felt good, and then I love the little tweaks that they made to the action skill. It was just nice. Like so far, my favorite character is Mose, and I just like how each one gives you like a different weapon and stuff, and like how it made me feel when I was walking around Spartan lasering things to death, and then kind of like chipping them down with the chain gun and stuff like that. Like there was just a lot of cool stuff that I kind of really, really enjoyed. And there's like not a lot to say about it, but it's just such a huge quality of life change that just really helps the game. And hopefully, they'll continue to expand on it, because I don't think they have to stop here. Making more kind of differences in the skill tree. It's welcome. I think personally, I think they can still evolve it with DLC, with character expansions, because like I hope they do.
I don't think they'll change the skill trees too much through that. They'll definitely add. I mean, they didn't in other games, but maybe they'll add a new like tier to the tree. I think that could be a cool little thing that they do.
Yeah,
But
yeah,
I doubt it. I think
I doubt
usually in
it
the other
too.
games it was to like kind of like as you leveled up higher than 50, you would like clear out multiple trees. So you essentially would have like 2 trees done instead of just the one.
Right, right. I think this is an opportunity for them to kind of continue with the whole, because like to me this game's just a complete quality of life improvement for the way the game plays and so on and so forth. And I agree with you. For me, Borderlands 2 definitely felt way more flushed out. They seem to have more time with this game. This game just doesn't feel quite finished to me. And a lot of games feel that way nowadays, to where they're like, hey, we can release and then we can clean up the mess as we go, and then hopefully kind of pivot away from some of the things that we did bad.
I think it feels finished. I just think that it feels a little buggy. Like they kind of like they didn't spend a lot of time like debugging it towards the end. And they just are like just kind of like let's just kind of put it through and then we'll fix it as it goes along.
Right. So that was that. And then I've been mentioning it this entire time when I'll talk through all my pros, is it's this game is more of the same. And honestly, when we were talking about Borderlands 3, like that's what I wanted. I wanted more of the same. And it just feels good that that's what we got. Like I feel like there's so much pressure, especially when I like listen to conversations that they have about like truly improving their game. And I'm like, like actually, I really think people just like your game. And if you gave us more of the same, we'd enjoy that. So I enjoy the massive amount of quality of life things that they did with the movement, with the vaulting, with the jumping around, with the map complexity, with the different kinds of things that I'm doing during the map. Like the way the looting system works seems to be kind of cool. The way that they're building it feels like the right direction. And, hopefully this DLC will take it over the top and really give us even more. So like I didn't know about the whole legendary thing and not being able to collect them all. Like that seems like they would want their community to do. So hopefully they do jump on that and change it. So that's possible.
Yeah, I mean all they need to do is just increase the bank size, like
Correct.
the maximum bank size.
Right, correct.
I don't think that's really too hard. I mean, I don't think so, but who knows? The program is crazy. You type in one thing and it messes up something millions miles away. So who knows? But,
right. So, I mean, all that's cool. Hopefully, again, we get more of the same. I kind of want a random, like, kind of... like, in Diablo terms, it's like random uniqueys showing up. Random, like, raid bosses. And like you mentioned it. But, hopefully we just get stuff like that. And again, unfortunately, I wasn't able to play as much of the game as I wanted. But,
Yeah, I mean the end game kind of right now boils down to collecting anointed versions of guns, and what an anointed version is. That like vendor next to Crazy Earl that sells like those guns with those special effects. Those are all anointed guns. You can get legendaries with anointed effects on them. So the idea is to like get all those for the spec you're going and make yourself even more powerful. Problem is, you can't determine whether a gun's going to come out anointed or not. Like I've killed the same boss multiple times on Mayhem 3 and True Vault Hunter and just don't get the anointed versions of the gun. Just rare. But other things that I didn't mention before that I wanted to bring up that I think were really good in this game. The mail system. I think that's great. The ability to send your friends mail and not have to like get in their game and be like, here's a gun for you. You just send it to them, and then they're like, "Hey, thanks for the gun," or "Hey, thanks for the skin," or whatever like that. I thought that was great. I also liked going off of that. Like this is a pro kind of hand in hand with that. The manufacturer's bonus that every time you got 100 kills with a certain manufacturer, they would send you a gun, and sometimes it would be a good gun, sometimes it'd be a crap gun. But every now, when I was using the cost-effective Q system for a long time, I was like, man, I'm like 12 levels over this gun. It's still pretty good, but like, I really need to find something that could be better. And then sure enough, get 100 kills, look in my inventory. Hey, buddy, you got a purple cost-effective Q system. That's the right level for you. Like, all right, let's go. We got a new one of the same gun. That's the kind of stuff I like. So I thought that was really cool. I thought that was a really welcome addition to just kind of, the companies being like, hey, thanks for using our guns. Here's a new gun. But then also, I did come up with another con that I didn't think about before, and it's that the customizations for the skins leaves a little bit to be desired. I think all the characters basically have this same skin like colors that they can get, or like skin themes that they can get. They all get different heads, and that makes them look different, but all the skins seem to relatively be the same, and I think that's a little disappointing. I think they could have been more unique there. I thought they were more unique in 2, to be honest. Easily. But also that uniqueness did come later into the game. They added a lot of the cooler skins, not right away, but you did have them right away in the Handsome collection. But yeah, but that's it. That's basically all I have.
Cool. In closing, I would simply say that it's a great game. If you're out there and you're like wondering what's going on, like, I talked to a guy at work about video games. I got a new guy at my job, and we talk video games, and I was like, outside of the performance issues, this game's great. It's awesome. It's great. It's awesome. And like listening to him, there's clearly a lot of people who just hate that. They hate buying a game that doesn't work properly. So I get it. But even still, it's a good game through and through. And, I think you're a little bit weird if you're like, it's bad, and it's kind of like, I can't agree. The performance issues do suck, but, that'd be that. That'd be that.
I mean, I totally understand, like, if someone didn't like the game because they weren't a fan of, like, the writing, or, like, it was... Because, that this style of humor is not for everybody, and not everybody likes it, and I totally get it. Humor is subjective. So I had friends who didn't like the game. They're like, yeah, I never really liked Borderlands. I never really liked, like, their humor. And I was like, yeah, that's fine. I, on the other hand, do. So for me, it's great. But yeah, so score. Do you have a score for it?
So score, it's going to improve with DLC. It's just, I think that was a rocky launch for this game. So, I mean, for that alone, for the performance issues and things of that nature, I'm going to give it a 7.5, to be honest. And it's not a bad score, especially if you know how my scores go. I think it's a good game, but I can't give it the ultimate golden seal of approval because I feel like those were some big blunders. And, like, it really makes me look at them and go, hey, man, get your stuff together, please, because, that was a little rough for me. That was a little rough for me. Like, my brother's game did crash at Vaughn. We just didn't know because I continued to play, and he got, like, it seemed like his part of the story advanced with mine, so we were like, whatever, and his crashed a couple times, actually, and it continued to crash when we were playing with different people when we hit the same marks. So, like, hopefully it's better because we did play a little bit this weekend, but, hopefully we get to play a little bit more. But, yeah, that's like, those are just... It's not acceptable. It's just not.
I gave it a way higher score than you did. I gave it a 4.5 out of 5, which kind of translates to like a 9 out of 10. I think this game is great. Flaws, I mean, the flaws exist. Yeah, you're right. It sucks. The crashing sucks. The bugs suck. But they didn't really deter from my experience too much, more than me being like frustrated for like a minute and then just hopping right back on. I put a lot of hours into this game already. I will probably put a lot more hours. So yeah, I very much so enjoyed this game. I think it's a worthy successor to 2 in the pre-sequel, even though, once again, a lot of people don't like the pre-sequel. I get it, I guess. Not really.
I like the pre-sequel.
I think the pre-sequel has better gameplay than 2, but people are like, but oxygen, which is not even a mechanic for half the game, so whatever. But yeah, I gave it 4.5 out of 10, or 4.5 out of 5. And very much so, check this game out. I recommend it, especially if you're a fan of the other games in the series. You'll like this one.
Wham, bam, thank you, ma'am. So, next week we will not be having a podcast. I will be visiting my brother, but shortly after that we'll pick up. We don't know the subject yet, but we'll get back to you guys. With love, appreciation. Hopefully you guys like today's episode, and we will catch you at another time.
Later.
Do so.